Hey everyone, it's Anthony here, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to scale your Shopify brand from $100,000 to multiple seven figures per month by blending finance and performance creative. And this document, along with this entire video, is going to outline our proven framework for scaling Shopify brands from 6 to 8 figures through advanced financial modeling, performance creative, and media buying. So for brands doing about $100,000 per month or even a little bit more, and you're looking to scale aggressively, this system breaks down the exact processes that we've used to generate profitable growth at scale. So if you're ready to stop trading cash flow for growth and you want to implement a system that's been validated with multiple 8-figure brands, then make sure you stick around until the end of this video. It's going to be a long one because I'm going to go in depth on all of these systems. I did not hold back on the value that I want to provide in this video, but if you'd rather skip this video and you want to fast track your success and have a reliable firm actually do this for you, then there should be a calendar underneath this video or a button to schedule a call. Find a time that works for you, schedule a call, and you'll be speaking with me, not a sales rep, not a closer, and we'll see if you are a good fit. So all that being said, let's dive into the actual document itself. So as I mentioned, we've been working with multiple 8-figure brands over this year alone. So for some context, my name is Anthony Camacho. I founded a growth firm called Tier 1 Acquisition that helps growth stage Shopify brands scale to multiple 7 figures per month. And over the years, I've partnered with some of D2C's fastest growing and successful brands like Just Ingredients, Manly Bands, Last Crumb, Ann Caller, Pup Essentials, and Beckett Simonin, to name a few. I've generated over $100 million in profitable paid advertising revenue for brands over the last 6 years. And I've worked with brands that do over $100 million per year that I work with to optimize their paid acquisition to improve efficiency, scalability, and bottom line profits. So I've helped several brands make the jump from scraping the barrel, barely by, for 6 figures a month to record-setting months in less than 6 months. So take a look at some of these case studies that we've generated from $70,000 per month in July to last month doing $915,000 and almost knocking on the door to that first $1 million month. This brand we took from $96,000 per month and scaled them all the way up to $842,000 per month in literally 3 months. So the growth that we're able to generate is insane if you're a business that can handle it. Now, chances are, if you're thinking about growth and scale, you're running into a couple of problems, or rather a handful of problems, as you can see from this list. So some of the main problems that I see in brands that are struggling to make that jump from 6 figures to multiple 7 figures, or even just 7 figures, is that number one, the creative production can't keep up. So you keep running out of winners. You don't know how much net profit your spend is generating. And funny, I'm talking about problems when I don't spell it correctly. But you don't know how to create a no-brainer acquisition offer. Ad costs keep rising, but you can't raise prices without losing sales volume. You've hit a ceiling at $100K a month in ad spend where nothing seems to scale anymore. Your best performing creatives suddenly stop working and you don't know why. Customer acquisition costs are eating into margins, but you can't figure out which part of the funnel is broken. You're drowning in data across multiple ad accounts, but you can't extract actionable insights. Your creative testing process is inconsistent and you waste thousands testing the wrong things. And you can't predict inventory needs when scaling ads, which leads to stockouts or overstock. Lastly, you're constantly firefighting between creative, media buying, and operations instead of growing the entire business systematically. And so the purpose of the video, again, is to give you the exact tools, system, and strategies that we've implemented to help brands overcome all of the above and finally scale profitably. So let's get into the case study now of scaling to multi-7 figures per month with finance and performance creative. So step number one to actually do this and to scale profitably is to do what we call establishing financial conditions. So before you start getting excited and turning up your ad budgets, you need to define your current condition and whether or not scaling is even the right move for your business. So shown below is what we call the advertising P&L. And as the name suggests, it's a sheet that replicates your business's actual P&L to show you the true ROI from your advertising dollars. And by the way, if your current agency is not assessing their performance based on how much net profit they are making you, in other words, how much money is actually going to the bank account because of their work, there is something seriously wrong. Now, this is what the advertising P&L looks like, and I'll go ahead and jump over to the actual live sheet as well. Oh my gosh, my face is huge. Let me put me over there. So as you can see, this is a mock P&L, and this is what we call the advertising P&L. And essentially what it is a way for us to replicate your actual P&L, factoring in advertising spend. So what we have here is basically your total sales. We have your gross margins, which gives us your gross profit. And then from there, sorry, I can't see from my camera. From there, we have our variable costs. So these are the things that your agency is probably not accounting for. Things like your merchant fees, your Shopify markets fees, transaction fees, shipping costs, packaging and supplies. So all of that gets factored in here. Then we have your paid advertising costs, your Facebook spend, Google spend, TikTok spend, YouTube spend, any other channel of spend. It's very easy to add into this sheet as well. Then from there, we're able to calculate the MER before returns, MER after returns, your AMER, your blended ROAS, and then your blended CPA. And then from all of that, we're able to see and track your contribution profit, your total fixed costs, so you can track that as well. And then your total cost, and then your net profit EBITDA, and how much dollars are actually hitting your bank account every single month. So this is a very rudimentary version of the P&L, and it obviously doesn't contain any actual sensitive information, but this is the driving force and the North Star for how I measure performance of ads. If my ads are making you money, that is a good thing. If they're not, it's bad, right? But the fact that some agencies and some freelancers that you're probably working with, or maybe even in-house, aren't tracking performance of advertising spend of an expense based on how much revenue and profit it's actually generating is kind of worrisome. So if your goal is to scale, then let's first define what scale is so we don't misunderstand each other. So scale, as I would define it in this context, is increasing the total volume of output and ideally output of profitable business conditions. So I added that last part there because if you're losing money, you probably don't want to scale. And that's a key distinction, right? Not every brand is ready to scale, and scale is not the solution for every brand. So to scale, you must first have proven product market fit, steady conversion volume, and to already be making money from your ads with your main goal of simply just making more than you currently are. So step number one, to define and establish financial conditions. Once we've kind of plugged you into this advertising P&L and to more of the daily and weekly tracking sheets as well, we start with a fixed cost analysis, and this is what you should do as well. Calculating the total fixed costs, ideally from your actual P&L. You can use a rolling 3 months average, depending on the seasonality, but rolling 3 months average should do. And then we're going to add a 10% buffer for the minimum target contribution profit that we need to generate. So your business has fixed costs, right? And the fixed costs are getting paid from your contribution profit, because your contribution profit is your net sales minus your variable costs, which is going to include, we separate out the advertising spend and the variable costs so we can just track spend separately, but it's going to include basically all your variable costs, which includes your ad spend as well. So from your net sales minus variable costs, from that you subtract your fixed costs, and that's how much net profit you have left over. Now, basically, whatever amount you need to pay your fixed costs is the minimum contribution profit that we need to generate. So after we generate revenue, we pay for cost of goods, we pay for all of our variable expenses, we need enough left over to cover our fixed costs. And whatever that minimum value is, that is our first target, because basically that minimum target contribution profit tells us anything below that, we are in the danger zone. We need to fix some things. There is a fire that we need to put out. And we're also going to add a 10% buffer to that for that minimum target contribution profit, because in my head, 10% is the new break even, because if you aim for exactly on the money, like dollar for dollar, cent for cent, this specific contribution profit target, chances are, even if you generate that, you're probably going to be off. You're probably going to see your actual cash balance like be very, very off. And that's just the reality. You can't be perfect with these things. So you want to set a target for at least a 10% buffer. So for all those things that are impossible to track or just fall through the cracks, you have a little bit of a buffer there set. So once you understand your minimum 10% buffer plus target contribution profit, basically anything above that, is going to go back, or not go back, but go to your bottom line, to your net profit. So once we understand that minimum target contribution profit, as we're looking ahead for scale, we need to start thinking about inventory planning. So what we're going to do first is calculate the average monthly unit sales by SKU, so we know which ones are generating. Depending on how many SKUs you have, you can do this by category first and then dive into specific products and then SKUs. But ideally, we're going to do an average monthly unit sales by SKU, calculate that. We're going to map the supplier lead times, including the delays. We're going to set minimum stock levels by SKU, and then calculate the total cash needed for our base inventory levels, our safety stock, and then growth inventory. And then we're also going to factor in seasonal demand spikes. So if we're plotting out a 3 to 6 month growth map, and we know we're about to head into November, or we know we're a seasonal brand, we sell really well in the summer, then we need to factor that in as seasonal demand. Step number 3 is factoring in our total cash requirements. So again, fixed costs to cover that monthly burn, marketing spend requirements or how much advertising budget we want to allocate, inventory holding requirements, and then I always recommend a safety cash buffer of at least 3 months recommended because it's a very, very volatile industry, and the more cash you have, goes with any business, the more flexibility you have when things go wrong. Then step 4, once we understand our cash requirements, after understanding inventory and our fixed costs, then we can get into setting channel performance targets. So we're going to break down performance by channel, set CPA targets based on total cash requirements, and then set channel specific budgets and CPA targets working back from our ideal net profit target. Step number 5 is going to be then creating scaling checkpoints. So you need to define your inventory reorder points, set the cash balance minimums before you scale so you actually have the money to pay, and then establish performance metrics needed to increase spend. And we're going to get into this last step here, but basically once you complete step 1 through 5, you basically have everything you need to start setting those performance targets. So setting MER targets and the reality of scaling. One of the biggest mistakes brands make when scaling is trying to maintain their initial MER or ROAS targets as they increase spend. And this fundamentally misunderstands how scaling works. So when you begin advertising, you're targeting your warmest, most convertible audiences, the people who are the most in market, right? And these people are the easiest to convert and give you those beautiful 3x plus returns. But this is the reality. That audience pool is limited. And as you scale, you're forced to expand into colder and colder audiences, or people who are increasingly unaware about your brand and therefore harder to, or not harder to, we should say, usually take longer to convert, right? So these audiences naturally convert at a lower rate, which drives down your overall MER. And this is not a failure of your creative or targeting, it's basic math. So let's look at a real scaling progression to show you why setting the same efficiency target that you have when you're not scaling versus when you are scaling can be very misleading. So this is a very, very simple table, which just shows how as you increase your advertising spend and you generate a higher volume of contribution profit, assuming that your fixed costs stay the same, you will stand to make more EBITDA, which is what you actually want. So scenario 1, we're at a 2.5 MER. And then we scale our ad spend. We go the next month in scenario 2, we're spending 189. In scenario 1, after all expenses, we are left with 74K in net profit. In scenario 2, even though we're at a 2.3 MER, we're actually generating more contribution profit, which means we're actually generating more EBITDA at a worse efficiency. And this actually follows through in scenario 3 as well. So take a look at this advertising spend. We've gone from 129,000 to 230,000. Our MER has dropped from 2.5 to 2.2, but we're actually making 102,000 EBITDA versus 74,000 EBITDA. Now, these scenarios here are to demonstrate that there is a point of diminishing return, meaning you can only stomach so much of a loss in efficiency before you actually do need to work on being more efficient. So as you can see in scenario 4, we're at a 2.1 MER, and we're only generating about $2,000 more in incremental EBITDA, which for an increase in 40K in spend is probably not worth it. So you do have to set these targets dynamically. And the key insight is that while the MER drops from 2.5 to 1.9, the monthly EBITDA increases from 74,000 to 93,000. And this is successful scaling. We're generating more total profit despite lower efficiency metrics. So what you're going to do now is set your scaling thresholds. And so to implement this in your business, you're basically going to start by documenting your current MER at your current spend level. And then we're going to set new MER targets for each major spending threshold. So I usually like to think of it in about 20 to 50K increments at higher spend levels, or if you're already spending 6 figures per month, you can think of it in 50K to 100K increments, and then calculate the minimum acceptable MER that maintains profitability. We're going to build a buffer into the targets, just calling back from before. We're building that buffer just in case to account for volatility. And then we're also going to track the averages and daily metrics for trends to avoid any knee-jerk reactions. And remember, the goal isn't to maintain your initial MER, it's to maximize total profit. And if you can spend more at a lower MER while generating more total profit, that's a win. Again, I want to reemphasize this. You would rather have $93,000 in profit hitting your bank account than $74,000 in profit hitting your bank account, even if your MER is quote unquote worse, right? So some common pitfalls for you to avoid if you attempt this yourself. Don't pull back spend just because MER dropped if you are still profitable. Don't compare your scaling MER to your initial MER, or make sure you're factoring in or you build some type of sheet to be able to track how your EBITDA is changing based on your efficiency. Don't set arbitrary MER targets without running the profit math. So many brands will just say, oh, I need a 3x ROAS. And then you ask them why and they don't know why. So don't do that. Don't set arbitrary targets. Run the profit math so you can actually see what that MER is a proxy for in terms of volume of profit. And then don't forget to factor in seasonality when setting targets. This goes for inventory as well. Factor in seasonality. If you're going into your busy season, if you're going into Black Friday, you need to factor that in as you're setting targets. And your job is to find the optimal balance between scale and efficiency. And sometimes that means accepting a 1.9 MER at 350K spend instead of maintaining a 2.5 at 129. As long as you're driving more total profit, you're scaling successfully. And everything we've discussed so far focuses on first order contribution profit, which is basically the money you make from the initial purchase. But here's where it gets interesting. We're leaving out a massive piece of the profit equation that also needs to be factored in as you scale. So we use some very basic examples for this. Let's assume our average order value is $50. Let's say your 3-month customer value, or LTV in this case, is 110. So that means every customer you acquire is worth more than double their initial purchase within just 90 days. So let's see how this transforms our scaling scenarios. So as you can see in this example here, basically we have two scenarios. We're comparing 129,000 in monthly spend with 189K in monthly spend. And so on the first order, here's how much contribution profit that we're generating. But as you can see, over a 90-day LTV, when you factor in the additional conversions and how much those customers are worth over time, we're not also just increasing the volume of contribution profit when we scale. We're increasing the value of those customers over time as well. Because if we get a higher volume of first order customers and we have an optimal business model, right? So as long as the business model is optimized and people are coming back on their own, you're essentially investing in future cash flow to profit. So you're getting a higher volume, right, of EBITDA, worse first order efficiency, but you're also getting a higher volume of customers into your funnel, which means a larger percentage of customers who then become returning customers, which is future cash flow to you in the business, assuming they don't come back through your ads. So that is basically step one in how we establish financial conditions and how we first work back to see what is the kind of business that we're working with, what the finances look like, so you can sort of define your current situation and then set targets to get you to your end destination. So once you actually understand your financial conditions, the next step is building performance creative that scales. So before you go out and start creating ads, you need to understand your current position and gaps. So basically exactly what we did with finance, understanding and looking at everything unbiased as objectively as possible. We're going to do the exact same thing with your creatives before we start touching anything. So now that we understand our financial targets, it's time to focus on the main lever we can pull to get there, which is going to be our creative strategy. So a great creative isn't about pretty visuals or clever copywriting or being quirky or clever. It's about systematically producing ads that convert cold traffic profitably at scale. So think of creative like a scaling machine. You put market research in one end and profitable customers come out of the other. But most brands get this completely wrong. They create ads based on what they think looks good rather than what the data tells them will convert. And here's the reality. As you scale from $100,000 to $500,000 per month in ad spend, your creative needs will transform drastically. What worked at $5,000 a day will almost certainly burn out at $20,000 a day. And you need a systematic approach to continuously produce winners that can handle that increased spend. So that's why we're going to break down in this document exactly how to audit your current creative library for gaps, do systematic market research that informs your creative strategy, use AI to produce high converting variations at scale, and then test and iterate based on data, not opinions. And here's the thing, when your financials are dialed in, creative becomes your primary lever for scaling. So if you get this right and you can systematically work your way up to those higher spend levels while maintaining profitability, then you are golden. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, when it comes to performance creative, we're going to have to bring up the breakthrough advertising framework. And just a quick primer, let's quickly address the elephant in the room. We're borrowing heavily from Eugene Schwartz's Breakthrough Advertising. So if you see this document and you're familiar with the book, you're going to see a lot of those principles borrowed in this document as well. And the reason is because 60 years later, his framework for understanding market sophistication and awareness levels is still the foundation of high converting ads. So here's what matters for our purpose. So market sophistication basically tells us how educated your audience is about solutions like yours, or how educated they are and how exposed they've been to other products in the market and the types of marketing they've seen as well. So a stage one market is basically brand new. You're the first to the market. Think like the first ever weight loss product. And then a stage 5 market has basically seen every claim and promise imaginable. So think about like modern weight loss ads or even like Nike commercials as well, where everyone pretty much knows what a running shoe is. There's not many benefits you could sell. So they have to rely on a lot of storytelling to actually drive conversions, as opposed to just like, here's all the features of this amazing shoe. Now, in terms of awareness levels, there's basically five stages of awareness here. The 4 ones that are usually the most relevant to creating ads are problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and most aware. Now, this really awesome visual basically demonstrates the 5 stages of awareness, but basically your total addressable market can be bucketed into each of these 5 stages. And strong creative strategy that scales speaks to all of the levels of awareness. And basically from left to right, the more aware the market, the smaller the audience size, and the less aware the market, the larger the audience size. So as we scale, we usually have to increase or move to the left of this graph here and advertise to increasingly unaware audiences. So understanding where your market sits on these scales isn't just theory. It directly informs what types of hooks and angles will convert. If you get this wrong, you're going to waste thousands showing sophisticated ads to unaware audiences and mismatch creative with certain awareness levels, and you're just going to waste thousands of dollars. Trust me, I speak from personal experience on that one. So let's actually put this into practice. So part number 1 is going to be auditing your current creative library. First, analyze your existing ads across 3 key dimensions: awareness level, mass desire alignment, and then sophistication levels. So basically just try and see and audit amongst all of your current ads that are running in the ad library, and then assess them across these 3 dimensions so you understand. And basically, so you can see, okay, maybe I have only ever in the history of my account have created problem aware ads. Well, that's a great opportunity for me to explore these other levels of awareness. Or maybe I am speaking only to most aware and product aware, which is, by the way, the most common pitfall I see for brands, is they're only running discount creatives and creatives with just the product shot. They're not talking about the emotional benefits, the pain points, etc. So maybe you're a brand, and you probably are if you're stuck at 100K, that's only covering these 2 levels of awareness. Well, you are going to need to explore problem aware and solution aware levels of awareness, or even unaware, to be able to open up your targeting and to reach newer and newer. Okay, so once we understand our current creative library and where we're kind of at and what our ads have been doing to date, now we're going to do the market research. So once you've identified your gaps, now we're going to start conducting targeted research. And the way we actually do this is using this sheet right here. And basically what this is a way for us to collate all of the information that allows us to do the research on our customers. So basically with this sheet, we have a link to the Amazon reviews, a link to 5 YouTube videos, a link to Reddit forums, and then link to viral TikToks. And really quick, this is what it looks like when it's fully filled out. I just used a dropshipping product for this example, or a product that was dropshipped, but is also available on Amazon. So as you can see, I have a link to the product. We have a link to the Amazon reviews, which is an export of over 1,000 plus reviews on Amazon. We've got 5 YouTube videos here as well. Basically, any video that's in the consideration phase of the product, which is basically educating people on what the product does or what the benefits are or certain pain points or even misconceptions people have about the product. Then we have a link to 5 Reddit forums because these contain fantastic discussions of real customers having their and sharing their experiences online. And then we have a link to viral TikToks. So similar to YouTube, TikTok is becoming an increasingly popular source of information to go to before you make a big purchase decision. And I forgot to mention this, but YouTube is also the 2nd largest search engine right behind Google. So whenever people want to make a purchase decision, YouTube and TikTok are great places to go, and Reddit are great places to go to get into the mind of what people are thinking of before they make that purchase, so we can take that and leverage it in our advertising. And once we've taken all that information, what our team does and what you can do as well is we take all that information and we run it through a series of very intentional prompts to get it to basically grab the main categories of information that we need. And basically, so within a span of like 5 to 10 minutes, we will extrapolate all of the most important information relative to us making better ads in a matter of minutes. So basically we use this prompt and we throw in all of that information from the previous sheet, and that allows us to generate what's called an audience one sheet. And basically from the reviews, we extrapolate the value propositions, the mass desires, the benefits, the features, the pain points, the purchase prompts, desired outcomes, failed solutions, and objections as well. And then we also have reviews to basically provide evidence of these things. And then these reviews also give us a really good insight as to how the customers describe each of these things in their own language. Are there certain keywords they use? Certain jargon that you use that maybe we're just not privy to, especially as marketers. This is very useful working in a lot of different niches to be able to see, okay, how can we communicate this authentically as possible by using the actual language and keywords that our customers do as well. You'll also notice in this prompt that in every single category, we have 5 answers, and these answers are actually in order of how frequently they occur in the reviews and the YouTube videos and the Reddit forums and the TikToks. So now we can see if something is repeating a lot of times in the reviews and there's a high quantity of that, then we know that that particular answer is probably the most important one or the largest one, or the one that's shared by the most people because it occurs the most frequently. So for this example, this was a hair loss product. And so painless hair removal with ice cooling technology was the top value proposition, or the most frequently occurring value proposition. And then in terms of the main mass desires for this product, surprise, surprise, the main mass desire and the main thing that people wanted to get out of this product was smooth hair-free skin without the ongoing hassle. So we basically have done, or are able to do hours and hours of product research that we could not do before as efficiently as we've basically done here. And then from all of this information, we're then able to turn those into audience personas. So now we have actual psychographic profiles that we can envision in our mind as we're creating creative. So that way we can create hyper-specific ads for hyper-specific types of people. So the ad we create for a 32-year-old female in New York who's problem aware and struggles with frequent shaving is very different from the creatives that we'll make for someone who's 24 and female and is already aware of IPL technology, but she's just skeptical about how it will work for sensitive skin. So there's two very, very different creatives. And unless you're building out these audience personas and having those specific avatars in mind, you're going to end up trying to speak to one person and invariably speaking to another, which means your ad is not going to convert as well as it could. Okay, so jumping back to the document, we've done the review mining part, and we've basically extrapolated all of that important information. We've created our audience one sheet here, and then we've also created the audience personas as well. And then from there, we can either kick it off, and what I'd recommend you kick off is into fast track ads. So basically finding your winning competitors' ads in the ad library and then noting down the angles and then recreating them, or you can jump straight into an evergreen creative roadmap. And if you're using this sheet in this video, it's going to pull in all that information from the one sheet and personas. So as you can see, as I'm creating creative, and this is basically the sort of building block that all creatives run through, is we first start with a persona in mind. If there's a specific concept, maybe we saw on TikTok, such as like 3 reasons why you need a hair removal device. Okay, so we'll come in, we'll say, okay, we want to test this video. It's a concept. We want to go after persona 1, the mass desire we want to leverage, the main benefits that we want to touch on, and then the pain points that we want to emphasize or really, really twist the knife in the creative, and then the creative format. So this is 3 reasons why. And then we have our hypothesis here for what we're testing and then what gives us confidence. So as you can see, in basically using this sheet, and what I would encourage you to do as well, is to do market research, but to also leverage that research into actionable bite-sized pieces of information that you can then use to then create ads in a very systematic and process-oriented way. So then it comes to part 3, which is leveraging AI for creative production. So now that you have the research, it's time to create the ads themselves. I also wanted to give you 3 proven frameworks that we can use to create the ads. So in terms of hook formulas, here are a couple that I really like: pattern interrupts, pain agitation, curiosity, and authority. And then in terms of the visual hierarchy, or in other words, the things to focus on or that are the most important visually, the first second and the first 1 to 3 seconds, obviously, you probably know this as well. The pattern interrupt visual or the thumbnail, as well as the hook text and that initial first 3-second visual are the most important. And then usually we'll see in the first 3 to 7 seconds, predominantly on TikTok, but also on Meta as well, if you can show that key benefit demonstration or the main thing that the product does. And then usually these things are things that need to fall back towards the end of the creative, such as social proof and objection handling. So these are 3 of the top proven frameworks that you can use. And these are 3 frameworks that I've used inside of multiple 7-figure accounts. So we have the unique mechanism framework, which is basically us introducing a completely brand new mechanism into the market. If your product obviously has one, then you can use this. If not, it probably will come off as weird. So I would not recommend you do that unless you really do have something unique, truly unique about your product, or you're some type of disruptor brand. Then these two frameworks alone can literally scale accounts to spending 7 figures a month. And this is what we call the problem agitate framework. It's a classic problem agitate solution framework where we have that hook. We introduce a problem, we agitate the problem, and then we introduce the solution in the form of our product. And then lastly, we have an education framework as well. And this is for products that are a little bit more obscure, that maybe are relatively new to the market, or that people in the market don't actually know what it is yet. And so that is why we need to educate them with this type of creative. Okay, and then in terms of the actual implementation process, you want to create all of your creatives in batches. Okay, and then when it comes to the actual implementation process, you want to create all of your creatives in batches. So ideally, you're creating 5 to 10 variations per winning concept or per batch. You want to be testing different hook angles and different visual approaches to maintain that consistent CTA. And then iteration strategy, you want to take winning elements, combine into new variations, scale the winners horizontally across multiple platforms. Often winning Facebook ads will work really well on TikTok as well, or even YouTube Shorts, and then also create platform specific optimizations. So TikTok has a very unique kind of text format that's very popular. Same with Meta, same with YouTube Shorts. And those are things to help make the content more native to the platform. The key to scaling with creative is systematic testing and iteration. So don't get attached to any single ad. Let the data guide your decisions and continually fill your gaps in the creative matrix. Okay, so that was a lot. And it's time now at the end of this video for a reality check. So do you want to try to achieve this yourself and go through a costly trial and error period, or buy into an unfair advantage and get the exact roadmap and systems that have been validated with other successful Shopify brands? And at the end of the day, it comes down to 2 things. Number 1, making more profit. And then number 2, fulfilling your vision with your brand, whatever that is. And we are here to serve you in helping you achieve both of those things. And the outcome of the tier 1 growth model is maximized efficiency, profitability, and scalability through our proven frameworks. So that's why we do strategic financial modeling, which leads to profitable scaling decisions. Performance creative helps us drive consistent customer acquisition at a low cost. And our advanced media buying enables predictable growth. We have a proven track record, which is why our resume includes partnerships with brands like Caller, Just Ingredients, Manly Bands, and Beckett Simonin, to name a few. And how much longer will you go on? So let's be a little bit honest about where you're probably at right now if you made it to the end of this video. You're probably constantly checking ad account performance, waking up to unexpected CPA spikes. Creative is inconsistent and you're always scrambling for new ideas. Testing feels completely random. You're never sure what to try next. Campaigns that worked last month suddenly stop performing, and you're hitting a ceiling at 100K a month and you just can't break through. And if you're working with another agency, they've probably focused on ROAS instead of actual profit. They don't really have creative strategy. They're just testing new hooks, quote unquote. Basic reporting that doesn't tie to your bottom line. They have a cookie cutter approach that they're using for every brand, and you're basically managing them instead of them managing your growth. So when you partner with us, you get hands-off execution. We get these results 100% hands-off for you with a full stack team that executes the systems end to end. And we decided to take every single skill set needed for scaling and built it into an in-house team. So this is our actual team structure. We have our head of growth, which is obviously me, media buyer who handles campaign strategy, optimization, performance analysis, and the scaling framework. I should have mentioned, as the head of growth, I'm obviously the strategy lead and the team lead as well. We have our copywriter who's doing the creative strategy, market research, performance direction, so creating the scripts, and then briefing our visual creator who is going to handle ad production, hook development, and the visual assets as well. And we have a dedicated team who takes over the complete execution of your scaling strategy 100% hands-off. And because I'm the head of growth, I am 100% hands-on in the actual accounts themselves. All right, so I know that was a very long, value-packed video, and you probably have some questions. So I want to try and tackle the most common ones that we often get. What exactly is your offer? So first and foremost, we are a growth partner for 6 to 8-figure Shopify brands and help our clients incorporate everything and much more that is mentioned in this guide. We help our clients with data intelligence, creating high-performance creative, executing sophisticated media buying, and maximizing their bottom line profits. Now, is this also suitable for me if I'm already a 25 million plus per year brand? And yes, at this level, you are our absolute dream customer. Product market fit is in place. You have relatively large scaling. Product market fit is in place, relatively large scaling has been achieved, and now it's time to hit the really big numbers. So maximizing the efficiency and KPIs of your marketing team is extremely important to you. Now, does it work if I'm also still at the beginning? Now, we explicitly do not work with brands that are just starting out. So if you're below 100K a month, this will not be suitable for you. Again, if you want to scale, you need to have something to scale. So if you're below 100K a month, you are still in the sort of proving the concept phase, and you need to get to 100K a month. And everything that we just detailed will work, but we are definitely not the right fit for you at the right stage in your business to be able to take that on for you. What's the catch? Of course, there is a catch. In this offer, you will only see results from companies that were suitable for collaboration. So for every success story, there are an average of 5 rejections and disappointments from brands that we were unfortunately unable to work with. This is exactly why we ask for a list of requirements with entry appointment booking, and every demo call includes a qualifying component to see if a collaboration makes sense. So we don't work with anyone unless we're 100% sure that we can bring massive value and deliver on scaling. So that is going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing exactly how we scale brands from $100,000 to multiple 7 figures, and how we've implemented and executed that work across a wide range of high 8-figure brands and even 9-figure brands, and how we've been able to take several businesses from multiple 5 figures per month to almost hitting their first $1 million months in just a matter of 6 months. So again, if you're interested in scheduling a call and speaking with me directly to see if you'd be a good fit, then there should be a calendar underneath this video somewhere. Find a time that works for you. And I hope you got a ton of value out of this, and I look forward to speaking with you on that call. That's going to be it for now. Cheers.